Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Like I mentioned earlier, we are back with another video, and this will be the TRX4 and SCX10 crawler upgrade series part 2. If you haven't watched part 1, the links will be mentioned below. You can go and check it out. Basically, it was about the FlySky NB4 radio firmware upgrade with the FlySky 8-channel FGr8B receiver. And in part 2, I mentioned earlier that we will be installing the HobbyWing Fusion Pro 2300 kV motor in the Gladiator. So that's what we are going to do in this video. And if you want to check out the overview of all the upgrades that I'm going to do, you can go and watch the part 1 of this video series, where I give a brief rundown of the parts that I purchased and the plan basically to upgrade the crawlers both internally and externally with aftermarket electronics. So let's not waste any more time and go ahead with the video. As you can see, this is my Axial SCX10 3G Gladiator. Mostly, if you see, it's totally stock except for a few parts which I'm going to mention now. The only things that I changed before this was I replaced the Nitto tires that come stock with the SCX10 3. The tires didn't work out very well for me, so I changed them for the TRX4 Canyon 1.9 tires, which are the stock tires in any TRX4 platform, in any TRX4 crawler that you buy. And I also upgraded the plastic rims that were there in the stock with these metal rims purchased from AliExpress, and they do have lead weights added to them, which sort of increases the overall weight of the vehicle, but in the whole it performs a lot better. So everything else is stock. I did add a light bar, and I crashed a few times and I'm missing one of the screws here in the light bar, which is why it is dangling right now, but I'm not concerned about that. We can fix that later. The main objective of this video is to upgrade the motor. Now, if you have watched the part 1 of this series, you already know that I've removed the stock motor and ESC. It comes with a Spectrum 40 amp ESC cum receiver. It's a combo. So I have taken out the Dynamite 35 turn brushed motor and the ESC receiver Spectrum Pharma combo, and I'm going to be replacing that with this FGr8B receiver and the HobbyWing Fusion Pro 2300 kV, and we are going to use this radio from now on. This will be the single radio for all my crawlers. Apart from the light bar, we have a few more lights added to the rear, and this is one more thing that I added. This is not stock. It comes with a plastic bumper as stock, but I added this metal bumper for added strength and weight to the vehicle, which makes it perform better. And that's about it. Everything else is stock. And so what we are going to do now is I'm going to take off the body, and we are going to install this motor. And after installation, what I'll do is I'll connect the programming card that comes with this motor, the HobbyWing programming card, and I'll change a few settings, and I'll see what other settings needs to be changed in the radio, and also give you a demo of the FOC technology that is special about this motor, that makes this motor so popular in this hobby. So let's see what other changes we need and what other configurations we need to change with this setup. So as you can see, I've taken off the body. We don't need it now. These are a few of the lights that are installed in the rear bumper, connections for the lights, and this is the connection that is coming from the steering servo. The vehicle is mounted on this RC crawler hydraulic jack. It's not hydraulic, but it's pretty cool. Like, you can place your crawler on this and it gives you convenience, doing all the work because it rotates. And what you have is this part of the jack is magnetic. So if you're working and you have a lot of screws to work with, you can place them here and they will stay intact. There is no risk of losing any screws. Sometimes what happens is, when we are working on our RC toys, we drop a few screws from our table and they are very difficult to find. So this will help in that. Now, coming back to the crawler, if you see, the stock motor is missing. And if you have watched my previous video, you know that I purchased these tools to work. These are Allen screwdrivers with different heads. So what we need to do is, we need to take off a few screws to put in the motor. I'll do that right now. So firstly, what you need to do is, you have to unmount this plastic fake engine cover that comes with the Jeep or any Axial SCX10 So there is I believe two screws that you need to unscrew to take this off. Let's do that now. And I'm keeping the screws in the magnetic portion of my jack. Like I mentioned earlier, it keeps them safe and avoids them wandering off, or you accidentally dropping them from the table and losing them forever. So these two screws are off, and I think, yeah, you can then take out this part. Okay, the next thing that you need to do is, you have to take this sort of what it looks like is a plastic anti-roll bar. So it is held down by, again, two screws. You need to take this off. One thing you need to be careful about is, just keep a note of which screws goes where, because for this plastic engine cover, there are two types of screws, one with a shorter length and one with a longer length. I believe this one will have two screws of the same length, so just keep that in mind, otherwise you will have difficulties putting it back together again. These screwdrivers make it pretty easy. All these days I have been using the Allen heads that come inside the box of the crawlers. They are good for the job, but they are not very much convenient to work with. So these two things are off. Now if you see, yeah, the motor should fit, but it's better if you can get this plastic piece out. I might be sounding a little low in this video. That's because I've been out since the morning. I went to the airport to do some plane spotting, and I returned home just a few minutes back, and I'm very much exhausted. So that might be the reason why I might sound a little bit low, but that's okay. I need to complete this video series as soon as possible. Okay, so that's off, and the last part that you need to take off is this transmission case cover. You need to take that off. Just 2 screws that needs to be unscrewed to unmount this part. Okay, so this is off and we have a clear access to the spur gear. So as you can see, there is some brown grease that you can see. What I'll do is I'll clean that up and I will put some new grease. I purchased some silicone grease from Amazon. Let me show you that. So this is what I'm talking about. It's from a brand called Gentle. By the way, I'm totally not sure if my camera is able to focus on things because this is a new setup and I don't have a means to look at the camera display, and I don't have external display to look at what I'm shooting. I can set up my iPad to have a remote display, but I don't, to be honest, I don't have the energy to do that right now. So this is the bearing grease that I purchased from Amazon, and I will be putting some inside the pinion and spur gear. Okay, all the parts are off. This is the pinion, the stock pinion. Now I have been suggested that I should use 11 tooth pinion with this motor, but to be honest, I did not purchase anything extra. This is the stock pinion that I have, and I'm going to use it. This is a 14 tooth. 11 teeth pinions are provided stock with the TRX4 if I'm not wrong, and this is the 14 teeth pinion that comes stock with the SCX10. So this is the pinion. You have this flat portion on the motor axle, and what you have to do is you have to line up the screw with the flat portion and tighten it down. I'm going to use some blue Loctite. So let's go ahead, and I'm using the 1.5 mm to unscrew the screw that we have in the pinion. Is this the correct one, or I need to use, no, so I have to use the 2 mm Allen screwdriver to loosen it up. Okay, so facing the screw on the flat side of the motor axle, what I'm going to do is I'll first put a little bit, just a little bit. You don't want to put a lot of Loctite, and the Loctite that I'm using is this Loctite 241. It's a blue and temporary Loctite that you use only to tighten screws. Now if you are planning to purchase one of these, make sure this is blue and not red. Red is for permanent glue, so if you accidentally put red Loctite on your screws, you will never be able to unscrew it again, and you might actually damage or break it. So just a tiny bit of blue Loctite. I think I have to make a hole in here, I don't know. Oh, I just have to lift it up a bit. So just a tiny bit, that's enough. Not sure if you can see it, but that's the most you want to use it. Now making sure you're still facing the flat side of the axle. Hold your pinion. Oops, I dropped it. And always keep in mind that you don't want to over tighten anything, so my pinion is safe. Next, what we are trying to do is we have to put this, I don't know the technical term that you call this, but this used to be on top of the stock motor, and you have different markings where you mount the two screws. So just in case I forget, what I did is when I kept it secure in a packet, I already had the screws inside the original holes that it should be in, just to not note it down. But if you want, you can note down the numbers on which the two screws are going in. This thing holds the motor in place. So I'll mount that on the motor now. And I'm not using any Loctite for this. And what I'm doing right here is I'm not tightening the screws at one end. You have to make sure that you put even pressure on each side. So just go a little bit at each side. And once you're sure that both the screws are firmly screwed in, you can finally tighten them. And again, as before, we are not supposed to over tighten anything, so that's it. Now you have to place the motor like this and make sure that the pinion and the spur are in proper contact. Okay, so as you can see, the motor is in. I'll put the Loctite aside just so that I don't accidentally spill it over my dining table. Let me bring it closer to the camera so that you have a proper view. So I've not yet put the top parts, but the motor has been installed. Now next thing that I'll do is I'll put some bearing grease on the spur gear. And just manually rotate my wheels so that it is evenly spread. Let me do it with my fingers. I think it will be easier that way. The space is quite tight and my white fingers are not going in. I believe that is enough. I'll clean my screw head. Don't want any grease on that. Next, just like the way we took out the top parts, we have to put them back in sequence. So the first thing that comes is this transmission case cover. So the way you want to do is go backwards. By backwards I mean the last part you took off is the first one that should go in. Let's find the proper screws. The same principle applies here. You don't want to put uneven pressure on any one of the sides, so the way to properly do it is go in one step at a time on both sides, and once you know that both the screws have reached their end point, it's time to give it a final tightening. Okay, so that is done. Now next one will be this front belt system. I believe it goes in this way. Yep, and there is only one screw to put this in place. Okay, so that's done. Next thing that goes in is the roll bar, and before you put the roll bar in, just make sure that your cables are routed underneath, just in order to save some space. Not all the cables, however, I'm just routing the servo cable this way. And I believe the way this goes is like this. Yep. And you have two screws of equal length that go on either side. Okay, as you can see, the motor is back in. One word of advice: the cable routing that I was talking about, you have to do that before you put this roll bar in. And the way I did it is the ESC and the servo cables go onto the right of the vehicle. You can pretty much route the battery connector from the middle, and I plan to use the power on off button on the left, so that comes out from here. Next thing that we want to do is connect the motor ESC to channel 2. I'm sorry, I mean connect the ESC cable to channel 2 and the steering servo cable to channel 1. But again, I made a mistake, is that I don't know which one is my steering servo cable and which one is my ESC. Okay, I believe this one is the ESC. So putting the ESC to channel 2, servo to channel 1. Now right now, as you can see, I'm not fixing anything permanently. That's because I want to test and make sure that everything is fine before I glue in. There are double-sided tapes that are included inside the HobbyWing package so that you can attach this power button. So let's go ahead and connect the battery. So in my previous video, I already had my receiver configured. Firmware has been updated, it has been binded to the radio, so let's turn on the radio first.
Welcome to Noble.
Okay, as you can see, it's model number 1, Jeep Gladiator. Let's connect the receiver. First I'll connect the battery. Battery is connected. I'll power on. Okay, So now as you can see, it's showing your transmitter battery levels, your receiver battery levels, the transmitter voltage, receiver voltage, signal strength. Okay, so steering is working fine. Let's see the motor. Okay, looks like it's working fine as well. Just look at it, guys, how slow you can have the Fusion Pro motor to crawl. You can go slower than that. This is, I believe, the slowest speed. Now what we want to do is we want to calibrate the ESC for the maximum and minimum positions of our throttle control. So that's what you want to do next. I'll turn off the car first.
Signal lost.
Okay, now we'll calibrate the ESC. So our radio is on and you have to press and hold the power button on the ESC and make sure you keep your throttle to the neutral. So press and hold until it blinks red. So it's blinking. Press once to the maximum. Press once to the maximum in reverse. Beeps twice with a long beep, that means your ESC is calibrated. Now let's check. Reverse. Okay, now that's done. Next, what we will do is we will connect this program card to change a few settings. So let's see what we get. Okay, so as you can see, this particular program card has only 11 settings, which means it is for a different motor maybe. And what we can do is we can put on the sticker that came with our Fusion Pro motor onto here, so that we have the exact settings for the Fusion Pro 2300 kV motor. We do get a few things inside the package. There is one instruction manual. This is one table 2 with 12 settings. That's not for our motor. This is for 10 settings. So let's keep this aside, and so this is the one that we need, exactly 13 settings, and we'll put that on. There it goes. It's on. Now we have 13 settings. I mean, the settings are already there programmed into your ESC inside the motor, but this will give you the items that you have to configure and their values and what they mean. So this will come in handy. Now next thing that you do is turn off the ESC. Okay, and you get one of the
Signal lost.
included cables inside the well, you get the included cable inside your HobbyWing Fusion Pro motor as well as your program card box. So on the far end of the power switch there is a rubber tab. Pull it out. Be careful not to break any pins inside, and please keep it safe, because when you are out crawling you have to make sure that this rubber tab is on this module, otherwise you have a chance of water getting in and totally damaging your motor, so you have to keep that in. Now signal wire is on the right, so that goes there, and the other end goes into your program card. Again, signal wire goes on the right. Okay, so next what we're gonna do is we want to cycle through all the settings that we have on our program card and make sure that they are on the preferred values that the driver wants. So in order to do that, I have already connected the extension cable to the back of the power switch and to the top of the program card. Now there are signs where it says which side the signal wire should be on both ends, so make sure you're correct on that. Now the next thing that you do is you power on your ESC, and you will see these lights coming up on the program card. So the thing is, you can cycle through the different menus with your item. You can change the values to your preferred settings with value, and once you are done you can just hit OK to save that configuration. And if you're confused and you want the program card or the ESC to come back to its factory settings, just hit reset. So the first thing that we will do is running mode. Now running mode has mode 1, which is forward and reverse with RPM matching, and mode 2 with forward, reverse and brake. I will switch that to mode 2. So what I'll do is keep item as 1, click value once, that becomes 2, and hit OK. So now my running mode is set to mode 2, which is forward, reverse and brake. Next is number 2, LiPo cells. So clicking on item again, we go to menu number 2, which is LiPo cells. First setting is auto, next is 2S, third is 3S, so I'll keep it on auto. Next we go to number 3, which is cutoff voltage. Cutoff voltage values are disabled, low, medium and high. The default value is medium. I'll keep it to default. So cutoff voltage is something to prevent your LiPo batteries from getting damaged. What it does is monitors each cell voltage and makes sure that when the voltage comes down below a prescribed value, the ESC is automatically cut off to save the battery. So low means it will wait for the value to drop to a very low value, medium is medium, and high is high. I'll keep it to medium. Next, going to item number 4, which is thermal protection. Thermal protection, there are two values. One, you can set it to 105 degrees and the second is to 125 degrees, which means that the ESC will detect when the motor heats up to 105 degrees or 125 degrees depending on the values that you have set, and it will automatically shut off. So I'll keep that to 105 degrees, which is the default. Next is motor rotation. So if you see, if I press forward, okay, now it's not working because we are in the programming mode, but we already saw that if I press forward, the vehicle is moving forward, so I don't need to change that. My motor rotation is correct. Going into item number 5, which is BEC voltage. BEC voltage default value is 6. Now with this motor you can have two values, which is 6 and 7.4. 7.4 BEC voltage is basically set if you have a high voltage servo, but I don't need that because as you will see in future, as this video progresses, that I'll be using the other available channels to turn on my lights, and I don't want my lights to run at 7.4 volts, so I'll just keep it at default, which is 6. Moving on to item number 7, which is drag brake force. Drag brake force is the braking force which is applied when you let go of the throttle. So the default value is kept as 6. What I'll do is I will bring it down to a lower value because I want my crawler to coast a little bit before it comes to a complete stop when I release the throttle. So the default value is 6. I'll change that to maybe a 3. Yep, a 3, and then OK. So drag brake force is okay, I'm sorry, drag brake force is not that. Drag brake force is the braking force applied when the throttle is at neutral position. So the default value was at 6. I will set that to something more, maybe a 7, and hit OK. Next item number 8 is drag brake rate. That is the rate at which the drag brake applies. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I want my car to coast a little bit before it comes to a complete stop. So I will lower down the value a little bit. The value is 5 right now. You can have levels 1 to 9. I will lower it down to 3 and hit OK. Next is item number 9, which is max reverse force. Max reverse force is set to 100%, which is the default value. That looks okay to me. Going to the next. Max braking force. Max braking force is the force applied when you hit your brakes. I mean, the car moving forward, you hit the reverse on your throttle. So the default value is applied to 6. I'll leave it at 6 because too strong braking might damage my gear setting, so I will not change that. Moving to item number 11, RPM decrease rate. RPM decrease rate is set to level 1. I'll keep that as it is and check. If it doesn't suit me, then maybe I'll change it later. To be honest, I'm not sure what this exactly means. Next setting is punch. Punch means the sensitivity of your throttle. The default value is set to 5. The more you go, the more the motor behaves like a basher. But since this is a crawler, I'll lower the value to maybe 3 or 4. 4 seems fine. Hit OK. And then the last is neutral range. So it allows you to fix a dead zone so that your throttle is not very sensitive. Right now it is set to 3. What I'll do is I want my throttle to be sensitive, so I will lower the value to 2 and hit OK. So that's done. Settings are done. The only thing that I need to check out is item number 11, which is the RPM decrease rate, and I'll do a few test runs with these present settings, and if something doesn't seem right, then we'll come back to the settings and change them. But for now, the settings are set, and I'm turning off my ESC. Unplug the program card and put back the rubber tab to prevent water from getting in. Alright guys, as you can see, the basic setup is done. I'm not yet assigning any lights to the other channels. That's pretty simple, everyone can figure it out, and maybe I'll do it in a future video. But as you can see, only my steering and my throttle is connected to the receiver. I have 6 other channels empty, which I'll be assigning to the lights. Now the interesting thing that I want to show you is let's go to assign. These two on the top were assigned as the steering and the throttle trim. These are called TR1 and TR2 buttons, but I wanted them to be in these sort of scroll bars. So I reassigned them. The way you do is you go into your settings, go inside assign, and whatever button you want to unassign or assign to something else, just click on that button, like let's say this, and you click on the function and you choose it. So it's pretty much simple. You can figure it out. The next thing that I wanted to show you is, since you guys already know that TRX4 has a cruise control function, but this is not a TRX4, this is SCX10 3, and I wanted to have the same cruise control on this. So what I have done is, if you go into settings and go to the idle up function, you can see that you can change the idle up to different percentages. I keep it mine at 10. Okay, and the next thing that you want to do is assign this idle up to one button. Now typically I would want my high and low gear switch in the TRX4 to be assigned to this switch on the hand grip, but since this is 10.3, I don't have any other servos for my dig function or stuff like that. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to assign the SW1 button to my cruise control. So right now if I press this, you can see there are no inputs from my end, but the wheels are going on. Now since I told you that the scroll bars have been assigned the throttle trim, if I increase this or decrease this, you can decrease or increase the speed of your cruise control. Look. So the initial is set to 10%, and with the throttle trim I'm just increasing or decreasing it.
Center point.
And if I press this button again, so it is configured to be a trigger off. And the interesting thing is, along with the cruise control, and you can use your throttle inputs to increase or decrease. Basically you turn on the cruise control, which will set the vehicle to a specified speed, which is 10% in my case, and use the throttle input or the throttle trim to tune the speed. Now the next thing that we were talking about, and I mentioned that I wasn't sure, was this setting number 11, which is the RPM decrease rate. RPM decrease rate is the rate at which the RPM decreases when the vehicle is going up an incline or maybe going over an obstacle. Basically when the motor is on load, normally in a brushed motor, if you are going at a constant speed and you get something in your path, maybe an incline or a stone that you have to overcome, the load on the motor increases and that lowers down the RPM, and you have to manually give more throttle input to keep a constant speed. Here that is avoided by the FOC technology that is built into the motor, which means FOC is something called field object circuit or something like that, I'm not sure. What it does is it automatically maintains the speed of the motor to a specified speed, no matter whether you are going up an incline, you are going down, everything will be done automatically. I will show you this. Now some drivers may call this illegal, because obviously this is a very special driver aid where you can just set the vehicle to a cruise control to a specified speed, and you can only concentrate on the steering while you are on the track doing your crawling. Some people might call it illegal. For me it's fine. Now I will show you how it works. So guys, here is a demo of the FOC technology, which is a specialty of this HobbyWing Fusion Pro motor, and I will show you what it is. And in order to give you proof that I'm not doing anything on my own manually, I'll keep the radio on the floor and I'll turn on the cruise control feature, and I will put an obstacle in front of the vehicle, and you will see how it maintains the speed without me giving any extra inputs. So this is the vehicle, it's powered up, this is my radio, and I will turn on the cruise control with this button, and if you see, it's moving by itself. I will put my feet here. Look, it's automatically going up. The speed is not decreasing. The ESC is maintaining the speed all by itself. Let me show it to you one more time. I'll turn around the vehicle this way. It's still moving as the cruise control is enabled. The radio is right there. This is the obstacle, and it maintains its speed even while going down. So this is automatic modulation all by the ESC itself, no inputs from the driver. So that's it guys. I will wrap up part 2 of the series. Installation of the electronics is complete, and as you know, I don't have any other exterior or aesthetic parts for the Gladiator. That was it about the Gladiator. In the next video we will do the motor and electronics installation inside the Defender, and we will also be installing the exterior parts that I've ordered, the window guards, you know, the headlight guards and all other accessories, detailed accessories, side awnings and everything. So that will come in the next video, and the last video will be about the upgrade of the Bronco. So stay tuned and we'll catch you soon. Thank you for joining us.